David. Now let me make my opening remarks by saying I only have 3 minutes left because Dave talks so long. You know, in the world of television, especially in my world, we speak in short phrases because we have shows that are broken up into 30 seconds, my segments 45, a minute, minute 15, minute 30, sometimes 2 minutes, and on days like yesterday, with the potential for severe weather, sometimes 3 minutes. So I have a lot to say in a relatively short period of time, so I have a little leisure this morning and that I can take a little more time. Interesting that he mentioned the news being weather, and sometimes the weather is the news. So in the headline of the paper today, Send Your Prayers This Way, the front page story, of course, is about the tragic tornadoes and the severe weather in Oklahoma yesterday. And just the day before as well, they had severe weather that broke out there with another round of severe storms and tornadoes. So just in the last couple of days, the weather has been the front page story, and more likely will be once again. Even here locally, later today, there's a threat for more showers and thunderstorms, possibly severe, mainly in the southern sections of northwest Indiana. How many of you yesterday ran throughout the day and didn't see any rain at all? I'm going to guess probably most of you, because it was a sunny day, it was warm, and it was humid. The storms didn't fire till in the evening hours and then overnight. Now, how many of you heard the thunderstorms and saw the rain last night? Probably most of you, because they were pretty heavy and widespread, and they were severe. So the weather is important. It at times is life-threatening, as we see here. This morning confirmed 91 people dead and hundreds injured. And so what separates you and your life from these people?
Where I stay.
Part of it, but you want to know what the real answer is? Chance. Chance. That's it. Because I assure you, someday, could be tomorrow, could be 2 years from now, could be 5 years from now, this will be Chicago. How many of you think that's possible? Raise your hand. Anything is possible. But are we more likely or less likely to have this kind of weather here? Anyone want to take a guess at that?
Less likely.
Okay, less likely. Show of hands. How many think it's less likely this kind of weather will happen here? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you think it's more likely it'll happen? Raise your hand. Okay, just a couple of people. All right, I want you to defend your position. Who wants to tell me why you think it would be less likely that we might have that kind of weather here? Yes, sir.
History.
History? Okay. Give me an example. Have we gone a long period of time with no severe weather or tornadoes?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, like, tornado killed 100 people.
Right, okay. Yes, sir.
I said I've lived here, my whole life, and I've never seen a tornado yet.
Okay, he's lived here his entire life and never seen a tornado. How old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
23.
He's 23, so that's a fairly large window. However, you've never seen one, but does that mean one hasn't been experienced here?
It's possible, but it's, like I said, less likely.
Okay, yes, you in the back?
Well, given that we're still prone to tornado warnings, tornado, yeah, we're on the outskirts of tornado territory. However, given how the weather's been, meandering as well, who's to say that we won't be more prone to getting an actual physical tornado here and having it lure away from Oklahoma, and eventually one day those will be the outskirts, and we're going to be the prime targets.
Okay, the point that I want to make is they're both right. You can go a great deal of time and not have any significant weather in terms of a tornado. The last real significant tornado occurred within your lifetime, but just barely. You would have been a baby back in Plainfield in 1990. You remember that tornado? How many of you recall that? Okay, I believe it was 27 people lost their lives, and hundreds were injured. And the damage was amazing as it went through Plainfield and through Crest Hill, and that was an F5 tornado, the most powerful tornado there is, and still to this date the most powerful tornado ever in the month of August. The tornado yesterday was an F4, which was slightly weaker, but it was a wider and more intense storm. So here's my point. Within 23 years, there has been one significant tornado and a couple of smaller ones in the metro area. And to your point, Tornado Alley does seem to be getting wider. But is it really getting wider? Not so much as that cities are growing wider and covering more ground. And so what might have been a city of 50 or 60,000 20 years ago is now a city of 600,000. And so the footprint of the city has gone from this to this. And so now the likelihood of a tornado moving through that area is increased dramatically, including Chicago, because Chicago is a big place. When you factor in all the suburbs in northwest Indiana, you're talking 10 million people. And you're just one of those people. And because it hasn't happened to you doesn't mean that it won't or it can't. Eventually, either you or someone you know or someone close to you will experience severe weather and or a tornado. Just a question of when. Even with the threat of severe weather today, I think mainly south of I-80 and in northwest Indiana. Doesn't mean we can't get strong storms here in Chicagoland and north and west, but that's where the main focus is. How do we know that? It's a pretty fascinating thing. I'm not going to lecture you too much about the sciences of meteorology because I don't know. Do we have any potential meteorology majors here? Probably not. And that's fine because that's why you have people like me who are fascinated by the weather. But you know, I wasn't always fascinated by the weather. You know, I could care less. It was what it was. After high school, I went into the service, right into the Army. 3 months out of high school. Didn't want to go to college. Had no interest in college. Could not afford college, really, was the truth. So I went into the Army, and I enlisted for 2 years. And that's where I started my fascination with the weather. And I'll tell you why. When I was in the Army, I was at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and I was put on guard duty. You may not know what that is, but they assign you a particular shift, and they give you a weapon, and they have you protect whatever it is they want you to protect. In my case, it was a big building, and I had to march around that building and secure all the doors and all the windows for an 8-hour shift, but it was an all-night shift, and it was pouring rain, and it was cold. And just before I went on duty, my master sergeant said to me, "Oh, by the way, the building is empty." So for 8 hours, I walked around that building, checking the doors and windows in a pouring rain, freezing my you-know-what off. And I thought, why am I doing this? As my mind started to wander, I thought, wow, I never thought about the weather and how important it was. I was freezing, and I kept thinking, when is this rain going to stop? And where did it come from? And why is it so cold? That's how it started for me. And then I kind of went on from there. I'll save you the long story and just tell you that eventually I broke into broadcasting because I was bound and determined to do this. Because for some reason, I had this little voice inside of me that said, you can do this. Didn't have any skills that I was aware of. Didn't have any talent that I was aware of. Wasn't the smartest person in class by any stretch of the imagination. I graduated high school with barely a C average. Weren't colleges beating down my door to get me to go there and offer me scholarships. What was I going to do? Well, that was one of the reasons I went into the military. Because I thought, well, once I get out of school, out of the military, I can go to college. Didn't kind of work out that way. So I ended up getting into broadcasting, and I'll save you all the sort of details. But I started in a little radio station in the middle of nowhere, and I went on the air at a little country and western station called KPUB. It was a little country place in the middle, and I mean literally, in the middle of a cornfield. There was nothing there but this little shack. And it was falling apart. But they hired me, and they gave me a chance to be on the air. And that's all I needed. It was like planting a little seed and putting a little water on it, a little fertilizer, and whew, off to the races. And that little shoot just grew and grew and grew and grew. And more than 30 years later, I am the byproduct of that seed. Loving what I do every single day. Have days when I want to bang my head against the wall because it's hard. Even after all of these years, with all the success that I've had, it still demands hard work, focus and attention and dedication. How many of you have all those qualities? Okay, look how quickly those hands went up. Think about it. How many of you have those qualities? Determination, intestinal fortitude, meaning that you're willing to go through whatever it takes for as long as it takes and endure whatever comes your way to get to where you want to be. Easy to raise that hand. Another thing to fulfill that goal. There were many times I thought, oh, this is too hard. I don't want to do this. And there were obstacles along the way. People smarter than me, people more educated than me, people more talented than me, people better looking than I. But I didn't let that stop me because I had a goal and I wanted to accomplish that goal. I'm assuming because all of you are in here today, you have a goal. Now, I expect to see all of your hands go up. How many of you have a goal? Okay. Share with me what is your goal because I want to know. Why are you here? You want to be a broadcaster. Any particular type? Any open fields? Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, you're too narrow, you're too wide open. You need to find a focus. Okay, are you going to be a sportscaster? Are you going to be a newscaster? Are you going to be a reporter? Pardon? Okay, so now we've got a more definite answer. How about you? You want to be a meteorologist. Now, is that before I came or just now? Okay. I will encourage you to do that if you want, and I'll talk to you about it. It's a fascinating career because I predict the future. I predict the future. I don't forecast the weather, I predict the future. I can tell you what's going to happen before it happens. Can any of you tell me that and be right? Now you're all thinking you guys are never right. Not true. Not true. The devil is in the details, and I'll give you an example. So if I say today is going to be mostly sunny, mild and humid in the morning, temperatures moving through the 70s, who wants to tell me what you just heard? Okay, mid-70s. Okay, now if I say this afternoon, partly sunny, hotter, more humid, showers and thunderstorms developing in a scattered fashion in 30 to 40% of the area, some possibly strong to severe. Highs in the low to mid-80s. Winds will be out of the southwest at 15 to 25 miles an hour. Likelihood of storms coming after 3 o'clock into 7 o'clock this evening. Okay, now tell me what you heard.
It might need a storm.
See? The point is you're going to get a lot of different answers because people only hear what they want to hear and they focus in on one thing. And most of the time, if you say thunderstorms, they hear, oh, it's going to rain. They didn't hear the partly sunny, they didn't hear the windy, the warm, the humid, they didn't hear the 80s, they just said, oh, thunderstorms, and that's what they focus on. So if I say scattered thunderstorms in 30 or 40% of the area this afternoon or this evening, but you live in a place where it never rains, what's your first thought? Those damn people don't know what the hell they're talking about. It didn't rain. But if you live in the spot that I said it was going to rain and it poured, the forecast is right. But in both cases, it's right. But it's your interpretation of the data. What did you hear? What did you focus on? The devil is always in the details. Speaking of details, careers. So again, I want to know why you're here. Why are you here? What are you taking? What are you interested in doing?
Yeah, I want to do sports.
Sports? As a writer, producer, editor, shooter, reporter?
Report.
Okay. Do you have a love of sports?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a favorite sport?
Soccer.
I'm sorry?
Soccer.
Soccer? Okay. How about you?
I want to have my own DJ, basically.
Okay. You want to be a DJ? Okay. How about you, young lady?
Voiceover artist.
Okay. That's a good field to get into. Way in the back. Any takers you want to tell me? Yes. Pardon?
Sports.
Okay, now you notice how the guys kind of lean towards sports? Now, I want you to think about this for a second. How many of you lived in this area for a long time? Raise your hand. Meaning a couple of years, or at least long enough to be familiar with sports people. Who can give me a name of your favorite sports anchor in Chicago?
Pat Tomasulo.
I'm sorry?
Pat Tomasulo.
Pat Tomasulo. Anyone else?
Jim Rose. Mike.
Okay, Jim Rose, Mike North. Okay, there's a couple of other names. So even if you were to give me a dozen names, let's go 2 dozen. 2 dozen people. Let's say there's 24 people who are doing sports at this level, meaning in Chicago, covering the Bulls, the Bears, the Blackhawks, Cubs, Sox, you name it. 24 people out of 5 stations. So that's an average of about 5 people per station. What do you think the odds are, or the likelihood that you're going to rise to that level and take one of those positions? Very small. Now, I'm not telling you this to discourage you. I'm telling you this to show you how hard it is to climb that hill. So when I said to you before, determination is going to be one of the critical factors, that's what I'm talking about. Being here is the first step. You're already on the path to doing it. Because think of all the people you know who aren't here. Where will they be in 2 years or 4 years or 6 years or 8 years? Probably not as far down the road as you'll be. But how long is that road to get where you want to be is the answer. And none of us know until you get there. I'm still traveling down the road more than 30 years later. And along the way, there have been a lot of bumps. Just kind of ride through them. And there's a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs. Will you be able to hang in there? My guess is a lot of you probably will. Some of you won't. That doesn't mean you won't find something else to do, because you may. But what is it you think that you're going to accomplish by being in this class and in this school, and where do you see that taking you in a couple of years? That's what I want to know. How about you, young man? Yes? Uh-huh.
Sports journalism.
Okay.
More so like, so more towards radio though.
Okay. Any of you interested in writing sports as a sports writer? Okay, there's one over there. Okay. A news anchor. Any news anchors in here? News reporters? Writers? Editors? Photojournalists? News management? Being the person that tells everyone else what to do? Okay.
Program director, that's another word for that.
Okay. How about behind the scenes? Because I understand this is a technology class. So what is it you're learning in class right now that is going to benefit you? Okay. Pardon? Editing? Absolutely. That's critical. You know, one of the things, technology has changed dramatically. When I first started, and Dave alluded to this earlier, how things have changed. My first broadcasting job was in 1977. Do the math quickly, you'll figure out how old I am. And when I first started, there were no computers. Well, there were rudimentary computers that were the size of this desk. And only into the early 80s did we start using computers more. And then now they're an integral part of your life every single day. I mean, look over there. I'll bet all of you have at least some form of a cell phone. That's a small computer. And some of you have more powerful phones than others. And that really is a computer. So the point that I'm making is that technology has allowed you to do a lot of things today that we could never do when I was much younger. I mean, I could call up a radar right now and tell you where the storms are firing. I'm nowhere near the weather center. The fact that I can do that is pretty amazing. So back to your point about editing. That's a great career, but editing has changed dramatically. Now reporters can edit their packages on discs, digital, on the fly, in the field, never come back to the station, send them via satellite or electronically through the truck to the station and go on to another story. So you have to be able to edit in the field, write, voiceover, put it together, and then go on to the next story. We could never do that before. You had to shoot the video, write the copy, go back to the station, track them, put the package together, and that took most of the day. You couldn't go out and do another story, highly unlikely. That's how things have evolved over time. And today, we can get a severe weather warning on the air within 10 or 15 seconds. When I first started, it used to take 20 or 30 minutes. So imagine, a tornado warning has been issued for Cook County and is moving to the northeast at 30 miles an hour. Back in the day when I started, by the time that cleared the wire, I ripped it off, took it upstairs, they typed it into the computer, proofread it, put it on the crawl, and sent it out. 20 to 30 minutes would have passed. That tornado would have come and gone. That was the best technology available. Now, the way the system is structured, because of computers, satellites, that system now takes the information, automatically produces the crawl, builds the map, sends it to us, goes through our system, hit one button, and it's on the air in less than 15 seconds. That's how much technology has changed things. So how many of you are computer geeks? I mean, love computers. Okay, a couple of you. How many of you just think of computers are necessary to do your job? Okay. How many of you could care less and don't want to use computers? Okay, good. I didn't see any hands go up. Because going forward, there's no way you're going to have a profession in broadcasting in any way, shape, or form, in whatever field you choose, without computer skills. So is that addressed part of what you take in class? You're working with computers, hands-on? Okay. Learn all you can about the operation of computers. I use them every single day. And just this morning, a perfect example, they can be your lifeblood or they can drain you. They were the bane of my existence this morning. Because of the storms last night, we had some glitch or whatever in the systems, and they were on the fritz. I still had to get all of my stuff on the air today. And I had to find a way to do it, and it was very difficult. And by the end of the morning, I wanted to pull my hair out. The viewer at home never knew, but if you saw as soon as the camera light went off and I went back at the weather center, it was like, ah! That's how frustrating it can be. And we have engineers on staff that come and help troubleshoot these problems and fix them. They couldn't even fix the problems. So the point is that even though you learn about computers and you work with them every day, doesn't necessarily mean that your life is going to be easier. Sometimes it's going to be very frustrating. Where do you go from here? I want to ask you, where do you see yourself finishing your education and going to get that job? Where are you going to work? What are you going to do? How much are you going to make? And the pie's in the sky. I want to know what your greatest dream is. How about you? What do you see yourself doing in 2 years?
Hosting shows.
Okay.
Being on TV.
Okay. And in 5 years from now?
In 5 years from now, being able to be in that career,
Mhm.
and being able to be, heading towards there, like either be working somewhere in the
Mhm.
industry.
Okay. Now, what are you doing to get there?
My internships.
Okay.
Prep.
Are you a student here?
Yes.
Okay. So you're taking the right steps. You're headed in the right direction. Have you interviewed anywhere yet? Have you had an
Yes,
internship?
I've had a couple interviews that
Okay.
I've done.
And have you done any work yet within the field that you're choosing to do or pursue? Okay.
What do you?
Have you had an internship? Have you gone out and pursued a job at any of these places?
My internships are radio.
Okay.
So, right now I'm interning actually for Univision.
Okay.
So, they're teaching me behind the scenes, which is like the promotion part. So,
Okay.
that's good to know as well.
Okay. How many of you want to be cab drivers? Raise your hand. Nothing wrong with being a cab driver, but none in here. How many of you want to lay brick for a living? Raise your hand. Any plumbers in here? You want to be a plumber?
I do it really good.
Okay. That doesn't count. It's like saying you're a doctor. I think I can help you, but I'm not sure. I'm not really good. People aren't going to be beating a path to your door. The reason I ask that is because we all pursue different things, but there's a general rule why you're all in this class. There's something this class is providing you that you think you're going to be able to promote into a career. Ask yourself sincerely, are you going to be able to do that? Are you? Is the school giving you what you're paying them for? Do you think you're getting what you're paying for? You'd say, well, how do we know? I don't have anything to judge it against. Well, you know. Do you know a lot more now than when you started?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good gauge. Are you learning at the rate you think you should be learning, or should you be learning at a faster rate?
Learning at the rate I think I should be learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they are tough questions, but the reason I ask them is because these are questions you should be asking yourself. Because let me tell you that the world is a competitive place, very competitive. And if you're looking to achieve success in whatever field you may pursue, remember that you're just one of a multitude of people who are pursuing the same goal. What are you going to do that'll help you rise above everyone else pursuing the same position you are? Because believe me, it's the standout person or persons that get hired, not the average person. Remember, just because you go to class and you do okay, if there's 150 people graduating in one class, there are going to be 2 people who are standouts in that class. Those are the 2 people who are likely going to get the first shot at whatever job they're applying for. Doesn't mean the rest of you won't get a shot, but what are you going to do to be one of those first 2 people? Yeah, because it requires a lot of effort. It does. So when you go home, after you close your laptops or your books, what do you do the rest of the day? How many of you really study beyond your time here in school? Okay, all right, there's some hands going up. How many of you, once you close your books and leave the building, you're done for the day? Okay, I don't see any hands going up. The reason I bring that up is because, you know, it's a catchphrase. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is the little extra in between. And it's a cliche, but think about it. Ordinary, extraordinary. The only difference is the word extra. If you give just that little extra every day, a little extra more than you might have, you'd be amazed. It's kind of the 2-cent rule, as I like to call it. If you put away 2 cents every day, 2 cents becomes 4 cents, and 4 becomes 6, and 6 becomes 8, and 8 becomes 10. And after a while, you just do it every single day, and it becomes part of who you are and what you do. It's the same thing with applying yourself, just that little extra. Every day, find one extra thing to do. Read an extra page, extra chapter, look something up on the internet, go talk to somebody who's doing what you want to do, find a business that'll allow you to shadow a person there. Every little thing like that will make a difference. And that's how you start to widen the gap between you and all the other people pursuing the same thing. Because you're all in class at the same time, all learning the same thing, yet one day you're all graduating on the same level, at the same day. But there'll be a person or persons who, one's over here and the rest are all over here. How did that happen? Just that little extra. Every day adds up. And you don't notice it at first, but that little gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then one day you look back over your shoulder and the rest of the group is back there. That's how it works. And if you apply that to every day of your life and everything you do, not just here, every day of your life and everything you do, you'll set the stage for a better quality of life than you can imagine. You will. Because in the real world, you are in control of your life and what you do and what you don't do. Your life is filled with choices every single day. You choose to be here, right? You don't have to be. You could all get up and leave right now. Nobody's holding you here, but you choose to stay. You can choose to pursue a job or a career, a relationship, a religion, whatever it is, and you pursue it with passion. We've all been in a place in life where we think, I hate this. How long is this going to last? But think about the things you love doing. Is it a fleeting thing that lasts only for a moment, or is it something that you've learned to stretch out over time and you find yourself doing it more and more? Here's the point that I want to make about a career. find something that you love doing. That you jump out of bed every day to go do it. Because it feeds who you are. It doesn't just put money in your hand, a paycheck in your pocket. I mean, that's a given. We all have to go to work. All of us. You want to eat, a place to live, have nice clothes, nice car, have a place that you call your own. Got to pay for it. So we all know we have to go to work. But don't ever go to work for money. You say, well, what do you just said? We all have to work and make money. Don't ever go to work for money. Money's a given. We all have to make a living, okay? As long as you have your mind wrapped around that concept, this is my money, I know I need to make it, I'm going to make enough to provide for my needs. This is my life. And I want this life to be as bold and filled and colorful as it can possibly be. How do I get there? It's your choice. It's your choice. It's simple to say these things and hard to accomplish. I am coming up on 58 years old. I've been around the block. Yeah, well, thanks, but that's not the reason I tell you that. I love what I do. Love what I do. What time do you guys get up? Who wants to tell me? What time do you get up in the morning? Average, every day. About 5:30. How about you? 7? Okay. How about you, Steve? 4:30. 4:30. Anyone get up earlier than 4:30? Okay. My day starts at 12:30 at night. And I'm in the office every day by 2:15 in the morning. My first broadcast starts at 4:30. So I've got about 2 hours and 15 minutes worth of preparation work to do. The forecasts, production, rundowns, products that I use on the air. And then I'm on the air pretty much nonstop until I get off at 10:30 through the Today Show. And then I have other things I have to do, much like I'm doing this morning. Give you an example of this past weekend. I had 3 events, all charity fundraising events. I was the host for the March Now for Autism at Soldier Field. Had to be downtown at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, my day off. I got up at 4 in the morning so that I could do everything else I had to do so I could leave. I got to Soldier Field at 7 o'clock. I was there till 11:30. Then I drove back home, did whatever else I had to do. Then I had another fundraiser at US Cellular Field. And I got there at 6 o'clock, and I didn't get home till 15 after midnight. Remember, this is my day off. Then on Sunday, I went to a fundraiser. It was a bowl-a-thon. Now, granted, these are fun events. I was only there for a couple of hours, but it was for a gentleman who had a severe brain injury, and they were having a bowl-a-thon to raise money for his medical needs. The point is that whatever it is that I need to do, I do. On my days off, getting up early, staying in late. Are you willing to do those things? Ask yourself those questions. And you've got to be able to answer them yes, 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 yes. Because that's what it requires to really excel in life. And I don't just mean at work, I mean in life. I'm not here to tell you that I don't have hard times and hard knocks. I do. We all do. We all will. But you are the master of your destiny, each and every one of you. And that's the one thing I'd like to leave you with. You control your own fate. There will be others that will help dictate what you do or don't do and the extent of your success, but ultimately in the end, you will go as far as you choose to. Because you're the drive behind how hard you want to push yourself. Okay? I love what I do. I hope I can do it for at least a few more years. But at some point I'll retire. I'll go find something else to do. Speaking of something else to do, I did for a while. I left television for a period of time to start my own business. Was I a little tired of TV? Yeah, probably. Broadcasting meteorology? Yes. But more importantly, there was another seed inside of me that I had to nurture. So I left television and I started a business. And for those of you who don't know, I started my own restaurant. Did I know anything about restaurants? Other than I love to eat? No. But who doesn't? So I thought, I can do this. I can be successful at this. But I planted the seed. Now, I knew I was getting into something that most people fail at. Most restaurants close within the first year. 90% of all restaurants in the first year fail. 80% in the second year. If you can make it to 5 years, that's called golden in the restaurant business. So I had my restaurant a little over 5 years and then I sold it. But here's the point that I want to make. All I've ever known is broadcasting, meteorology, and television. But I knew there was something else I could do, and I wanted to prove that I could. So when I left television for about 4 years, and I went out to pursue this other career, I did my homework. I studied about the restaurant business. I found a concept that I liked. I went to work to be trained. And then I found my place, I built it, and I ran that restaurant for 5.5 years. Now I went back to television and did both for a couple of years. But the point is there was another seed I wanted to sow. And here's the point I'm making to you. You may really push for a certain career, but there may be other things that you can do as well. Don't just define yourself by one thing. You're capable of doing far more than you think. It's not easy, but you can, as long as you say to yourself, this is my goal, this is how I get there, and you do it. Okay, questions? Ooh, I don't see any hands going up. I must have fulfilled every question you had. Yes? The restaurant was called the Pancake Cafe, and it's still there. 13 years this December, and doing well. You know, and I'm proud of it. Every time I go by that place, and it's still there. And I still go back and I pour coffee for my customers, and they're always happy to see me. I built something that is kind of a legacy. Now at some point maybe it'll close, but at least now every time I drive by there, I know that I'm responsible for that place being there. I created something. And it was good enough that the same people came back day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year. You have no idea how fulfilling that is. That's one of the reasons people become entrepreneurs, because they love to create and provide something for people to a level that they keep coming back. Boy, that scratches an itch like you can't believe. It's great. Other questions? Wow, what an easy crew. Yes, sir.
Now, so when you at Channel 7 at first?
Yes, I was.
So that's when you started the restaurant?
No, I was at NBC already. I started in early 1984 here. Prior to this, I worked in Denver at the CBS station for a couple of years, and my very first job on television was in Colorado Springs. And none of you were born yet. I'm pretty sure you weren't. But my first radio job, as I mentioned, was at that little country western station in Pueblo, Colorado, in the middle of nowhere. And all I ever did was plant the seed, which is what you're doing right now.
So you always did meteorology?
Yes. Once I got into meteorology, that's really what I focused on and went on from there. So my point for all of you is you've planted the seed, you're here, you're in class, you're learning, you're picking up new experiences. Fast forward your life. Think ahead. 2 years from now, where will I be? 5 years from now, where will I be? What do I see myself doing and how do I get there? And if you don't have a plan, you need to make one. Because if you just let things happen, things will happen, but not what you planned. Because life is already that way. Many things will happen that you don't plan. So if you don't plan to do the things that you want, have a hell of a time getting there. Hell of a time getting there. Okay, on a positive note, again, I want to praise all of you for being here this morning. And not just because you're listening to me, but because you're here in school and you're applying yourself and you're moving in a direction that is a positive one. You've already shown that you've got that little extra and you've got the determination to get there. Just keep feeding that. You'll be surprised the tree that you'll grow into. Okay, any other questions? If not, I'll wrap it up. How about you, Dave? You have any questions?
No, I'm beyond question.
Okay. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but that it? Okay. I'm going to go back to work because my day is not done yet. I thank you for your time. I hope that I've left you with something valuable and that you'll be able to go forward and say, I remember one day when that guy said to me, and maybe 10 years from now, might be 10 years from now. Might take that long. But when it does, you'll look back and go, remember that day. He was right. He was right. Okay, thank you for having me. Okay, appreciate it. You're always welcome to come to the station.